Okay, so we will get started. Just before we begin, to let you know, we will be using the Q&A function at the bottom, or the chat function actually. So if you've got any questions that are going to pop up throughout the session, you can pop your questions in there. I have two colleagues on the call with me. We have Amar and Vicky. So they will be on hand to answer your questions if it's a specific question about your child. If it's a question that might be helpful for the wider group, then we will leave it till the end and maybe we can open up. I will give permission to speak, or you can pop your question in the chat and we'll read it aloud, because it might be helpful to, you might be thinking of questions that other people in the group are thinking of too. So we'll have a Q&A discussion session at the end, okay? I will also ask Amar and Vicky to pop in our link. So the booking link is for after this session. Hopefully this will give you a really good overview of the education landscape here in the UAE in general. But we're going to put in our booking link, which will give you the opportunity to speak to one of our education consultants. So it's a free virtual deep dive education consultation to work out your school search and to guide you through every step of that. So we will pop the link in the chat. And so at any point during this session, you can pop yourself into, my calendar will come up and you can choose a time that would be convenient for you, or you can do it after the session. We'll also send it in a follow-up email with a recording of this webinar. Okay, so here is your guide to choosing an international school in the UAE. So here's our agenda for this evening. We are going to give you an overview of the education landscape here in the UAE. We are focusing on Dubai, but much of what we will share will also be relevant for the other Emirates too. And likely the other Emirate that will be on your radar will be Abu Dhabi. I'm just going to move. I've got you guys across the bottom of my screen, so I actually can't see part of my slide. Okay, let's just carry on. Can you just give me a thumbs up, or Vicky, and let me know that you can see the whole screen and that the panel isn't blocking? Okay, perfect. Okay, so we will give you an overview and then we're going to give you some key facts to consider when choosing your school over here. We'll have a chat about some of the curriculums and compare the curriculums, what the key differences are between them. Then we will talk you through our school search support. So that is what we offer you when you book a free virtual education consultation with us. That is just the very beginning of our support that we offer. And then I will guide you through every step that we help you with, right until the very end when we eventually hand you over to the school teams for enrolment. And we'll also touch on how to prepare your child for the move ahead. So who are EdSG? This is us. I'm really wanting to move this panel so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, it's at the side now. Okay, so what do? We are school search consultants. We provide curriculum alignment advice and we provide tailored family support. So everything that we do is almost a concierge type service for each family, because of course every learner's need is very different and every family's need is very different. So the support that we provide is very much bespoke in accordance to that. Our impact is that we offer a stress-free relocation and the right school fit. We know that that is such a core component of a relocation. So having that be a good match is going to only make the rest of the move more easy for you all. Our strengths are that we have local expertise. We have a strong network of schools. We know the schools very well. We are here, boots on the ground. We are in and out of the schools every day, and we have very trusted consultants. So let me introduce you to some of our team. So here we are, and we're actually a rapidly expanding team now because our the demand for schools in the UAE is growing very quickly, and so our team is growing to accommodate for that. So between us, we have 50 years of education teaching experience and 30 years of education admissions experience. So I'll just give you a little bit of background on myself, because I think it's helpful sometimes for you to know who's talking to you and who's guiding you. So my background is education. I was in teaching and learning for 15 years, both in the UK, in a state school over there in the UK, or a couple of state schools actually, and then in a British international school here in the UAE. I have 3 children of my own, so I've been in your shoes as parents trying to find schools for my children here in the UAE. And then since moving over to consultancy, we have placed over 1,000 students across schools across the Emirates, primarily Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So a really good understanding of schools from the inside, but also the each step of the stage of a school search. So either when you meet with one of our consultants, it will be somebody who is from academia and has a background in academics, so can really do a deep dive into your child, their learning profile, your family profile, and can match you up well. And then the rest of our team have either come from academics or from admissions, which is really important because they know each step of all of the ins and outs of the admissions process, which is very helpful. We have got over 10 years of experience helping families across our regions. We cover 12 regions in total, 12 cities. We have got over 12,000 schools in our database. Our customer survey feedback gives us a 4.9 average, according to our results in 2025. So that's out of 5. So we're really, really proud of that. We offer time-saving gains. So for families, on average, we have worked out over the last 10 years that we save you an average of 14.6 hours per family, because the school search is such a complex search, and so we can take some of that burden off you and hopefully make you feel supported in every step of the way. We have 8 consultants, experienced consultants here on the ground who, as I've said, have got a rich background and experience in education in many different regions across the world. But we are here on the ground and we know exactly what it looks like, so we can guide you every step of the way. So, types of international schools here in the UAE. There are over 400 schools here in the UAE. So if you are feeling somewhat overwhelmed by the choice, then you're not alone. That's usually the first feeling that parents express to us when we begin the school search research, the school search support. And I know as a parent myself, even as an educator, my husband is also an educator. And in fact, the primary reason for our move here to the UAE was for education. And I felt utterly confused. I think part of that was because I didn't even realize there were 20 different curriculums. And so I think when you're coming from the UK, where usually you don't have a huge amount of choice in which curriculum your child goes into. So most of us only really know UK curriculum, myself included. That's what I went through myself. That's what I trained in. I taught for many years. That's what my own children were in. And so this is why it can be quite overwhelming. There are 40 different languages that are taught in the schools over here. There is a hugely diverse student community with close to or above in some schools over 100 different nationalities within a school. So it truly is a melting pot of cultures. We try to keep on top of this figure here, but I feel like every time I go into schools, I hear about a new ECA. But there are over 500 extracurricular activities on offer, everything from the very traditional sports of rugby, hockey, football, to chess is a really popular one at the moment, triathlon, all the way to scuba diving, to fencing, and not just sports as well. Performing arts is very big. And yeah, there truly is something for everyone. The price of education ranges quite dramatically. We can find international schools that start from around 25, 30,000, and they go all the way up to 200. And I think at the moment, the most expensive school in the UAE is 216,000. So that's dirhams per year. So a big range, which is great. It means there's a market point for everyone. This is just touching on student diversity, which we've spoken about. Some schools have over 100 different nationalities. Some schools have a more dominant nationality, and that is what some families are looking for, whereas some families are looking for something a bit more diverse than perhaps they would find in their home country. I think this is a really important slide actually, because for a while, for a long time, probably until about 10 years ago, there was a narrative whereby you come to the Middle East or you come to the UAE, certainly, and schooling is great and a wonderful, rich experience. But when things get serious and students are getting towards their examination years, families would often go back to their home countries for that, because the understanding and the kind of perception was that the settings at home were offering a better version of education, essentially, and the results reflected that for a while. However, particularly in the last 5 to 8 years, the results that we are seeing out of the top international schools here in the UAE are matching, if not going beyond, the top private schools in the UK. And so this is why actually we're seeing education increasingly becoming a driving force behind a move, as opposed to just being a consequence of a relocation. These are truly world-class results, and the provision is truly world-class. So it's a very exciting time to be in the UAE in education. So you may have heard of some of these schools, you may have heard of some of these education groups. So there is a huge amount of schools. There is also a huge amount of education groups. Now, some of them, you will walk into a school and you will know instantly who owns that school, which education group they are part of. GEMS do this very well. They brand, everything is on brand. They are they are the giants of education in the UAE. They have over 45,000 students, and they have a huge range of schools. So from very affordable all the way up to the most expensive school in the country. So they have GEMS Education as their overall brand, and then almost micro brands within that. So when you walk into a GEM school, you will absolutely know it's a GEM school. Everything is branded and on brand. There are other schools, other education groups that may even be bigger, actually, certainly on the global stage of education. So we'll use Cognita, for example. You won't necessarily walk into a Cognita school and know it's a Cognita school, because they work in a slightly different way. So they tend to acquire schools that they really love the look of. They've studied and watched kind of from the sideline for a long time, and they are confident in the practice that they have in place. They acquire them, but they let those schools keep some integrity and autonomy as to who they are. So they will have a group of schools with lots of different names, lots of different curriculums, different identities, and that's how they work their ecosystem of their education group. And so all of these groups work in slightly different ways. And some of these groups, so Repton family of schools, for example, also sit within the Cognita group. So yeah, these are just some names that you may have heard of. But what is wonderful is that they all offer something a little bit different. So there really is a school for everyone. I feel like part of our job at the moment, a really important part of our job, is keeping on top of the new schools that are coming to Dubai and also to Abu Dhabi. So due to the dramatic increase in population over the last, well, always actually, the population is always growing here, but certainly in the last 3 to 5 years, the infrastructure is growing to reflect that. So we are seeing new schools pop up out of the sand, and in the city, in all corners of the city at the moment, which is really just indicative of how much the education market is growing here. Some families are really excited by this, and it's really special actually to be a founding family, to have that sense of belonging right from the beginning, and to feel like you are immediately part of something bigger than just your family moving over. And founding families are really proud, always really proud that they were there from the beginning. And some families are actively looking for that. Other families are looking for something that's maybe slightly more established. And that will depend on your children's age, their where they're at in their education, who they are as a person, their personality types, and your family's educational values. So when we book you in for a free virtual education consultation, these are some of the things that we can talk you through. And in doing that, we will be able to guide you as to what schools are going to make for a softer landing for you and your family. So schools in Dubai, it says 300 plus here. There are 300 plus, actually closer to 400, but some of those schools are local schools as well. So in terms of international schools that you could possibly be targeting, it probably sits around 300, which sounds still like an enormous number. But during your consultation, we tend to get that down to about 5 or 6 schools through a variety of by establishing a school search criteria, basically. So there's the practical elements of budget, maybe location, curriculum, but then also those real kind of nuances between what you're looking for in a school compared to what somebody else might be looking for their children. So we will guide you. This does seem overwhelming, but I promise we do get it down to a shortlist fairly quickly. And then if you are working remotely and you're not necessarily committed to basing yourselves and your family in Dubai, then you might choose to look at Abu Dhabi schools as well. The traffic in Dubai is slightly heavier for sure. And actually, if you're looking at the south of Dubai or maybe have to be in the office in the south of Dubai, people do commute from Abu Dhabi. So it could be an option for you. Again, a really wonderful portfolio of schools in Abu Dhabi. It's not as though education in one city is better than the other, and actually lots of sister schools between the two cities. So here are some of the benefits to schooling in Dubai. Again, also works for Abu Dhabi. So we get outstanding academic results. We have a hugely diverse student population, a rich selection of academic curriculums, a huge portfolio of sports and music programs. The international travel opportunities are truly something else. Whenever I receive the catalogue, because it is like a travel catalogue that comes through for my children, I am blown away by the opportunities that these children have, from skiing to mission trips in Africa to surf trips in Sri Lanka to eco trips in Thailand, it's to cultural trips in Rome. It's truly, they think of everything. We also have boarding options here. There aren't many. In fact, there are only 2 schools in Dubai that offer boarding at the moment. There will be a school opening soon in Abu Dhabi. Harrow is going to offer boarding. But yeah, that is an option for you, and we can talk through. So if that's something you're interested in, maybe your children are already in boarding school in the UK, then we can guide you through that. And of course, an international learning experience. So here are some key factors to consider as you're beginning your school search. And again, we will guide you through all of these. But just to give you an overview of some of the things that you will want to be thinking about, we will need to consider curriculum, which curriculum is right for your child, language options, extracurricular offerings, price points. It's obviously how much do you want to invest, or what is your budgetary requirements for schooling. Student diversity, academic outcomes, locations, your own educational values, and any special educational needs. So let's look at those in a little bit more detail. So curriculum options on the whole are divided into 2 categories. So we have the international curriculum options. So you may have heard of the International Baccalaureate, which is the most dominant international program actually in the whole of the UAE. Some schools do offer IEYC, or the International Primary Curriculum. Not so popular actually in the Middle East. The International baccalaureate is the go-to international program. And then we have the national programs. So most of you guys are coming in from the UK, so you will be very familiar with the UK, the British National Curriculum, which we have in state schools in the UK and in many, many private schools in the UK too. So what's wonderful about the move is that you don't have to shoehorn your children into the British curriculum. It's a wonderful curriculum, but it isn't for everyone, and that's okay. So what's great is that it is opening up many doors of opportunity for them. It might be that the American curriculum is more appropriate for them, and they may experience more success in that. It might be that they have some links with maybe Spain or with France or with Italy, and you would rather them explore those curriculums in order to support their language acquisition. Or it might be that you want to explore an international baccalaureate, which is in probably the fastest growing curriculum in terms of popularity, and I'll tell you why now. So I would say the three main curriculums that the UK families are looking at when they come over are obviously the UK curriculum here in the middle, the US curriculum, and the international baccalaureate approach. So I'll just give you a quick overview of those differences. When we meet you one-to-one, this is what we go through with your child and your child's student profile and academic profile in mind. So this again is just an overview. So I guess the key differences between these three approaches are the US and the UK curriculum are somewhat similar in the sense that they are both knowledge-based curriculums. So fairly traditional. The concept is that you go in, you learn some new knowledge, you probably repeat it, you get to apply that knowledge, of that understanding of that knowledge. Hopefully it's going into your long-term memory, and then you are recalling it in an exam type situation or sometimes through coursework. So they are fairly similar in that sense. They are as broad as each other. The breadth of those curriculums are quite similar. So the range of subjects that your children would study would be quite similar. We do see a difference when it comes to the depth of the learning, and that usually becomes more evident around the age of 7 and 8, so around year 3, what we would know to be year 3. And what we see is that generally the UK curriculum goes a little bit deeper in terms of the depth of the learning than the US curriculum. So again, this is a wonderful option, because if your child is not necessarily feeling inspired, or the UK curriculum may not be resonating with them, it may feel like they are constantly coming just below or age-related expectation, maybe it's really impacting their self-esteem, then the switch to the US curriculum can be transformational for some students in terms of letting them experience success more frequently, and maybe exploring other curriculum areas that they may not have had either the cognitive capacity or even the time to do, because the British curriculum was perhaps academically demanding for them. So it's a great option to have. What we do say is to bear in mind that it's easier to move from the UK curriculum to the US curriculum than it is to move from the US curriculum to the UK curriculum. And that's because we have this gap in the depth of curriculum in the depth of how far down in understanding the curriculum goes. So if we imagine a child moving from the US curriculum to the UK curriculum, even if they are very bright, have a great attitude towards learning, really enjoy learning, ultimately they haven't had this exposure to this curriculum content. And so, yes, they could pick it up, but it's not going to feel good when everyone else in the room has covered this and you're trying to kind of blindly navigate. So it's a consideration. It's not as though it can't be done later on, but we do recommend if you are going to at some point try to get back into the UK curriculum, then we recommend doing it in the primary years rather than waiting to secondary. And then we have the International Baccalaureate, which is it's actually not a curriculum meaning sequence of learning. It's really an approach to teaching and learning. If we think of it as a philosophy, it's a different pedagogy. And when we say pedagogy, it's kind of skills of teaching and learning. It's just it's executed in a different way. So what we do find is most of the IB approach schools are still underpinned by the UK curriculum. So it's not as big a move as some families understand it to be. Yes, it's new and it's maybe unfamiliar, but it's definitely worth exploring. So we haven't got the gap in understanding because it's often underpinned by the UK curriculum. So they're getting all of the curriculum coverage. What's really wonderful about the IB approach is that the tagline of it is that students are taught how to learn rather than just what to learn. So what we mean by that is they are still getting all of the knowledge-based curriculum, but it's almost an enhanced offering because on top of that, they are also getting that really rich skill set of higher order thinking skills. So things like how to be a critical thinker, how to approach a project analytically, how to evaluate, how to plan, how to collaborate, communicate. Some of these skills that we once were referring to as soft skills. And actually, the reason they are becoming increasingly popular is because they are the skills that AI can't take over. They are the human-centric skills that are also transferable to any job or to any learning. And when we bear in mind that we don't know what we're sending our children out into in terms of a job market, and so we need to question whether sending them out with just a knowledge-based curriculum is going to be enough when AI will likely take over all of that stuff. So we will talk you through this. We will talk about your students, your children as students and as learners, and we will work out which is the best curriculum pathway for them, obviously considering their intended educational trajectory as well. So where they might like to go, what their career ambitions are, etc. Okay, so this is one that maybe we wouldn't be, it's not an obvious one, I guess. Sometimes families come in not expecting to talk about family values on an education consultation, but I think it's really important. So when we talk about family values, we may just assume that every family has quite a similar set of values and we all just want the best for our children. But what that looks like can be quite different. So some families are definitely more focused on academic outcomes, whereas some families want very much a holistic approach for their child, and the academic outcomes are, you know, hopefully a consequence of feeling really settled and healthy and happy in school. Some families really want a school that's going to build character development, things like perseverance, resilience, accountability, integrity, all of that good stuff. And they really want a curriculum or a school that offers development that is rich in that. Maybe you are looking for something that's more structured or maybe more child-led and inquiry-based. And again, we can help you work out which your child is going to respond to better. We can have a look at their reports together. And usually there's some really good indicators in the most recent school reports as to which setting your child responds better to. Extracurricular activities, I think sometimes are thought as an add-on and an afterthought. But for a child who's moving to a whole new life, a whole new country, their interests and their passion projects and their extracurricular activities are such an important part of their sense of self and will definitely make for a softer landing for them if we can make sure they can do those activities pretty much as soon as they arrive in school. Particularly sport. So if your children are into sport, there is nothing that brings humans actually, or not just children, together faster than playing on a team together. So we've just had a really close friends that have moved from the UAE over to Singapore. And within the first week, their boys were in the swim squads, they were in the football teams, their teammates had their arms around their necks, pulling them in like they've known them forever. And that sense of camaraderie and being part of a team, part of something bigger than yourself, is really going to support them emotionally through that transition. Pastoral care, what is it that you're looking for in the school's pastoral care? Do you want really high expectations for your child? Often, if high expectations are given to a child, then it isn't just a very strict environment, but actually what it's telling the child is, I believe in you. I believe you can reach this, and therefore you should believe in yourself. And so often we find it's very conducive to building confidence in a child. Maybe you don't want that really tight ship. Maybe you don't want focuses on uniforms, for example. Maybe you want something a bit more relaxed, and your child would respond better to that. And we can guide you through which school offers what. Are you looking for a familiar curriculum? Are you going to go straight into UK because either it's working for your child, or you want to stick to something that you know, or are you interested in a new approach? Because maybe what they're in at the moment isn't bringing out the best version of them. And what about student diversity? It's something to think about. Are you looking for a dominant demographic in a school? Some families come over from the UK and they desperately want a really big UK community. It makes it feel more familiar, makes it feel a bit more like home in the sunshine. And some families are actively trying to move to something a bit different and offer their child a more international experience. So whichever way, there is no right or wrong, but we can support you in finding the diversity that is right for you. Okay, language options. So generally, when I say generally, I mean actually all of them, apart from a handful of schools. The language of instruction in international schools here in the UAE is English. So there are other schools, French curriculum schools, German curriculum schools, and there is a Chinese school too. There aren't a huge amount of these, and for most of you on this call, you will likely be looking for a school that has English as the language of instruction. And then your children really truly will have the opportunity to become linguists in really no time at all, because the mandatory language, second language, is Arabic, obviously, because it's the mother tongue here in the UAE. If your child is coming with a UK passport, then they will be in what we call a non-native Arabic group. So they will go into their Arabic lessons either 3 or 4 times a week, depending on how the school structures their timetable. And they will learn Arabic as they would French or Spanish or any other second language. So the language of instruction in the classroom is still English, and then they are learning Arabic through vocabulary, through song, through basic conversation, reading and writing, etc. If your child maybe has a dual passport and has another passport from an Arabic speaking country, then you can choose for them to go into Arabic lessons as a native Arabic speaker, and therefore everything will be spoken to them in Arabic. So it's obviously a deeper opportunity for them to develop their Arabic skills. And then usually in the international schools, so English is obviously the language of instruction, then we have Arabic, and then we either have usually Spanish or French as their modern foreign language. There are other options as well, though, and they are taught right from usually from FS1 or FS2 all the way up to when they can drop those languages in year 9 normally, should they choose to. And then you do have a couple of schools that have a bilingual option as well. So we can guide you through all of that. We also have mother tongue programs in many of the international schools. So if you're coming from a bilingual family and your child, you want your child to still develop that second language or their dual language, then they can join a mother tongue program. So say if their other language is French, then a modern foreign language version of French is probably not going to be rich enough for them or to challenge them enough. So they will go into a mother tongue French program, and they will be taught as French, as a native French speakers. Okay, so learning support. This is quite an important one to consider. So if your child has a special educational need, and by that we mean they have been diagnosed with a special educational need, then you are contractually bound to declare that when you apply for the school. If your child does not have a special educational need diagnosis, then you have nothing to declare, and therefore you don't have to mention it. The reason I'm emphasizing this is that what we do see, and I think it's important to contextualize it in the context of the UAE, What we do see from families coming over from the UK is there's certainly been a trend, a growth in children who are maybe coming over with a diagnosis of some sort. And I know as a teacher how that comes about. So if a child is displaying a need for an extra provision in the UK, then we very much encourage the family to take the child for an assessment. Once that assessment, because we know the waiting lists are really long and it could take a really long time. So we try to really get the momentum behind that. But also because the class sizes are so big in the UK, and I'm talking about state schools at the moment, and the resources are really quite low in terms of funding, what it means for that child when they have an assessment and then they get a diagnosis is that the local educational authority then has a duty of care over that child, and they have to provide extra funding so that the school can increase and enhance the provision for that child. Now, sometimes what we find is that students are coming over with, I don't want to say exaggerated because it makes it sound a bit I don't think anyone's doing anything wrong in the UK, and I can completely understand the reasoning behind it. But what we find often, and this isn't just one or two cases, it's definitely a trend, is that children are coming over with an EHCP or an individual education plan or a recommendation from their assessment that it's almost over. I guess it is exaggerating to a point the type of provision that they need. And that works in your favor in the UK. I think you need to know this because if your child comes over and has a special educational need, you don't want to make it sound out as though they need more provision than they do. Because whilst all of the schools in the UAE have an inclusion department and they do inclusion incredibly well, it's a very, very inclusive environment over here, but they only have a certain amount of seats. And you're not working with a local educational authority whereby they are bound by a duty of care to make sure that your child has a seat. These schools are businesses at the end of the day. And if there isn't a seat, then they can't give you one. And so we will work with you to advocate for your child and for their application, particularly if they have a special educational need, then all the more reason to have a consultant working with you. Because what we can do is we can make sure that it is abundantly clear what the provision is that your child needs. Because yes, they might have a special educational need of, say, dyslexia, but it may be so minor that they don't actually need any support from the inclusion department, and therefore you are not asking for an SEN seat. And so we can help you work through that because it can be quite overwhelming, and we can make sure that we are bringing your application to life so that rather than it just looking like an application of a child who has a special educational need and the admissions team might have been told, sorry, we've got no space, we can really make sure that the inclusion department know actually it's a really low level of need. The child can access the curriculum in the classroom, does not need any extra intervention or provision. So we can support you through all of that. But yes, all the more reason to come and work with someone who can really support you and advocate for you. Okay, some of the key differences between the UK and Dubai. The term dates over here in the UAE very much mirror the term dates at home. Some slight differences. We start slightly earlier. So the end of August as opposed to the beginning of September start. But there are 3 terms. So we have term 1 that goes up until winter break. We have term 2 that starts in January and goes to spring break, which is the equivalent or usually sits around the Easter break in the UK. And then term 3 goes from Easter all the way up to the big summer break. A key difference actually is that there is year-round rolling admission. So usually in the UK, schools are liking students to begin at the beginning of term, or certainly at the beginning of the academic year, or certainly at the beginning of a term. Dubai and Abu Dhabi are such transient cities. People are arriving at all times from different academic calendars, and so you can really join every week of the academic year. KHDA and are for Dubai, and ADEC are for Abu Dhabi, and these are the government entities that oversee education in both cities. And so you may have heard of them already, but we have KHDA ratings or ADEC ratings for schools. And I guess the closest thing we can match that to or liken it to in the UK is Ofsted. So the 6 categories that they can get as a result of their inspections are outstanding, very good, good, acceptable, weak, or very weak. We do say it's definitely a tool to use in your school search toolkit, but I wouldn't recommend using it as your ultimate Northlight and guiding star, because there are some really wonderful, good or very good schools that have got outstanding features, but they may not have got outstanding in every area. So, for example, the school that my children go to have only just got outstanding, actually, but they have had very good for a long time. But the reason they didn't have outstanding was because of their Islamic provision and their Arabic provision. So for our family dynamic, they weren't key priorities. And so we were willing for them not to be outstanding. And we can guide you through that and help you work through the KHDA and ADEC ratings and really what the reports mean. If you are looking for a UK British curriculum school, the reports that will probably actually be not more meaningful, but will be meaningful to you are the British Schools Overseas reports. These are most closely aligned with the Department of Education in the UK. And so they are definitely worth looking at as well if you're looking at UK curriculum schools. Okay, this is a part of the school search that can be a little bit confusing, but once you get your head around it, it does make sense. So in the UK, we tend to categorize year groups like this. So children in the UK will usually join in reception. So they will join the academic year that they turn 5. So we call that FS2 over here. Because they can join in FS1, actually. They can join the academic year that they turn 4. And then it proceeds year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, like this. So this is probably what you're really familiar with. You might hear, so say if your child is age appropriate to apply to year 4, some schools might be calling that 3rd grade or grade 3. It's not that this is lower or less academically demanding. It's just a difference of semantics. It's just different words for the same system. So 3rd grade or grade 3 is equal to year 4. Grade 4 is equal to year 5, etc. And then sometimes, although we don't see this a lot, the IB schools might use primary years program 1, primary years program 2. But again, we can guide you through all of this so that there's not any unnecessary confusion. Okay, application timelines. We get this question quite a lot. We have some families who have been made an offer and they need to move quite quickly on it. And they may be looking for a school next month, and we can make that happen. Again, more of a reason to have someone working with you and supporting your application. Generally, if you have got time on your side, then in an ideal world, you would look to start your application 6 to 12 months before, particularly for the very popular premium international schools. So as I've mentioned, you can apply all year round. It's not as though the application's shut at any point, although they may go to a waiting list situation. So here are the application steps. So research and shortlist. Again, we support you through all of this. Then you submit your application. You may have to do an assessment or some type of interview. Large majority of these can be done virtually. There are a couple of schools in the UAE that will require your child to be on campus to do their assessment and interview. And then you will be offered a seat. You have to formally accept the offer with a deposit. You secure it with a deposit, and only then is the seat taken off the market and belongs to you, really. And then we hand you over to the school teams for enrolment. So this is where our support comes in. So this is our school search support service. So even if you're still feeling like this at the moment, it's really normal that your head may well be spinning with curriculum, bilingual provision, academically, selective schools versus inclusive schools, learning support, student diversity, all of this. and that's why we are here to help you. So again, I'll ask Emma or Vicky to just pop our link into the chat so that if you want to book a consultation, you can do so now. I am just going to share a video of my colleague who's going to talk you through why you might like to do that, and just give you a minute to sign up if you want to do that now.
We know how daunting it is trying to find a school for your children in a new city. You've got to consider the various locations, which school has the best reputation, which school meets your budgetary constraints. Then, of course, there's the curricula offered, language options, sports, music. Long-range education planning also needs to be considered. Do you have a plan of when your eventual repatriation will be? Do you have any university aspirations for your children? And so with that in mind, we founded EDSG in 2019. We're a personalized school search service that helps families moving into Singapore, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai find the perfect school for their children. We have a team of expert consultants, an extensive database of international schools, and a thorough knowledge of the educational landscape. So how does the process work? After meeting with you in a personal online consultation, we'll carefully consider your family's unique educational requirements and recommend a shortlist of relevant schools. This will include seat availability indicators and a comprehensive comparison of program, pricing, and location, ensuring you clearly understand each school's offerings and are poised to make an informed choice. Lastly, we arrange physical and virtual school visits according to your schedule. And this basic package is a complimentary service to families moving to Singapore, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi. We'll be happy to answer any further questions you have. Click on the link, fill out your details, and a member of our team will be with you shortly.
Okay, I'm just plugging back in. Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, hopefully you can all hear me. Okay, our link is in the chat there, so if you want to click on that, but again, we will share it after the call, during the Q&A, and after the call in a follow-up email. So let me just pull this one down. Okay, so this is our school search service. So this is our roadmap, if you like, of how we help our families. So as mentioned, we have the consultation with yourself. Sometimes students do join as well, but usually it's a consultation between our education expert and the parents. And then we will produce a shortlist for you of, so carefully considering your school search criteria that we have established on the call, we will produce a shortlist of schools for you. So we have a database of every school in the UAE. We keep that updated on a very regular basis. We always have a member of our teams in schools, on the ground, touring schools, and making sure that we are updating our database accordingly. And we have reduced that database down to 1 page per school of the information we feel you need to know at this point in your school search. So rather than having to go through every school website to try and get the same information to compare the schools, rather we will produce a school comparison resource for you, and hopefully that will go on to be your ongoing guide throughout the whole process. We can then arrange for you your school visits. So if you are doing a pre-move visit, then we will arrange all of your in-person tours for you. If you aren't able to get to the country, maybe you are from the UK, but you might be based in Australia or New Zealand, or it's maybe the timeline is just too tight for you, then we can make sure that you're meeting the teams virtually. So the admissions teams and the academic team, just so that you feel like you're making as an informed choice as possible without actually being in the country to do that. We will guide you through the whole application process. It is very school specific. So whilst we will give you the overview of the application process, only when we start targeting the schools can we share with you the real next steps. We offer you holistic support throughout the whole move. We know that the importance of student well-being, and we know that that truly is at the core of a healthy and happy move. So we will support you in any way we can. We have got a huge blog, a library of resources that will give you evidence-based research as to how to support your child, but we have also put that into really helpful practical tips that you can implement in the home. And then we will also help you with your onboarding process. And we will hand you over to the school. The admissions teams are incredible over here, and only then do we let go of your hand. As mentioned, this is our blog. We've got some very practical blogs about the pricing of school fees in the UAE, for example, or locations and communities surrounding the schools. And then we've got discussions about EdTech, about how to support your child's well-being through sleep and how important that is, how to prevent the summer slide, lots and lots of different resources that you can use. And these are just some of our feedback from our families. We spend a lot of time with our families. So I think I said in one of the earlier slides, we averaged it out to be 14.6 hours per family. So it's quite a lot of time. We really get to know our families very well. And we are delighted to be able to support that full circle process and eventually hand you over to the school teams for you to start your new chapter here in the UAE. And that's us. So I'm just going to leave our school search service here up for you if you want to ask any questions. Now, Amar and Vicky, I can't see the questions because it's not popping up down here. Oh, no, it is. Okay. Let me see if there's any come up here.
I can't seem to write a question on the chat. It says it's
okay.
disabled.
No worries. Shall we just, hang on, let me see how many of us. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing, guys. And then I'm going to go into participants and then make sure that you've all got the rights to be able to put into the chat. Can you try in the Q&A box instead? I think that should.
I don't know where that is.
It's just down. It should be. So there's the chat, and then to the right is the raise hand, and then you should have a Q&A. Do you not have the Q&A? Okay.
No, I've got chat and more. But
okay, no worries. I'm going to just unmute everyone so that you can ask your question. Okay, Lucy, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
Is there any disadvantage or advantage? I like the idea of the IB curriculum over the UK curriculum, but is there any disadvantage in doing that?
To go back to the UK, do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to going to universities, if he wanted to go to university in the UK or in America or in Dubai, is there an advantage or disadvantage to either of them?
Yeah, really good question because it's a very natural one and it comes up a lot actually. So the end of the IB curriculum ends with the International Baccalaureate Diploma. So, or the International Baccalaureate Careers Program. So instead of the A levels, basically. So in year 12 and year 13, they, rather than going down to 3 subjects at the end for A levels, because it used to be 4, but it's usually 3 now, which is quite narrowing actually for a 16-year-old to make those choices down to 3 subjects.
It really is.
Yeah. And they will then carry on instead in the IBDP learning 6 areas of learning. And so what we hear back from universities now, so in short, no, there's absolutely nothing stopping your children then going on to universities in the UK or anywhere in the world. But actually, interestingly, the feedback we get from universities now is that international baccalaureate diploma students are better prepared for undergraduate study than A-level students. And that's because they've had that enhanced skill set that they've learnt alongside their knowledge-based curriculum the whole way through. So they've learned how to be independent learners. Whereas what we see sometimes is that A-level students are still used to being very much spoon-fed the information. And then they go to their first year of university and it's a real shock for them because no one's chasing them for deadlines and no one's going, have you done this and have you done that? So they, there's no disadvantage at all to do the IBDP. And in fact, lots of European universities are preferring IBDP over A levels, and some universities, I've heard from parents recently who are applying now, are saying that they won't look at A levels and they only want IBDP. So yeah, no. And then if hypothetically, if you were to go back to the UK before university years, to transition back into a UK curriculum from IB is a really easy transition, particularly because the sequence of learning is still mirroring the UK curriculum, because so many of the schools are still underpinned by British curriculum. But if anything, they're going home upskilled because they've got the enhanced IB skill set as well. Does that help?
That really does help. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Thank you.
What
But
year
all the
what year are
so
they
my
in?
son, he's currently in year 7.
Okay, the perfect time. Are you looking for
Um,
August?
we were, but because of everything that's going on, I think we're going to have to wait till January. So I'm
Okay.
hoping that by the sounds of what you said earlier, I thought that was going to be a problem, but I think from what you said, that's not a problem.
Not a problem at all. Yeah, because
Um,
if you think so many families move from Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, who have got an academic year that ends in December. So it's a really
okay,
natural time for them to move. So the biggest intake is August, and then the next biggest intake is January. So yeah, there will be no problem
brilliant.
at all with that. Yeah.
Um, with the British schools, so
Mm-hmm.
I was actually looking at, there's a new English school, Horizon English school opening.
In Town Square.
Yes, they
Yeah.
talk about year 8, so they're going to be going up to year 8. Do they
Mm-hmm.
mean year 8 or do they mean grade 8? Because that
Yeah.
very much
Yeah.
depends
No, they
on.
mean year 8. Yeah. They use
Okay,
a year
fine.
system. Yeah. So they'll
And all
open
the
up to year 8.
okay, and all the English schools, do they all use the UK curriculum or some of them use the IB curriculum?
If they're all the English speaking schools, so they are all English speaking schools, actually, the ones that we're talking about, the language of instruction is English. The if it's a UK school, the UK British curriculum schools, then they will use the UK British curriculum. If it's an IB school, they will use the IB approach, but usually underpinned by the British curriculum. And then we do get some schools that offer, say, the British curriculum up to year 11, so GCSEs, and then they might flip to IBDP for instead of A levels, or they might offer a dual or multi-curriculum pathway. So some schools offer A levels and IBDP and
Oh my goodness.
IBCP and BTECs. So yeah, there's a huge range. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay. Thank you so
great
much.
time to move. And
Oh,
the
good.
schools to open, the new schools open like that. So it's not unusual for them to open up to year 8. They tend to fill out from the bottom like this. And then
Yeah.
once ADEC have seen that they're doing a really great job, then they're allowed to open a year 9, a year 10, a year 11. So what it
Okay.
does mean is that cohort at the top can be quite small. So that obviously has its advantages and disadvantages. The great thing is that they are a really small set of students, so they know each other very well. Sometimes that can mean smaller class sizes, but what it can mean, particularly if your children are maybe really competitive in sport, they may not have the opportunity to compete, say, in the first leagues because the talent pool is quite small at the top.
Okay.
So that's, yeah, consideration. But we can go through all of that with you
Okay.
and work
And
out
what
which
do you
schools.
charge? What
We
do you
don't
mind me
charge
asking?
anything. So
But for the whole thing, you don't
yeah,
charge?
yeah, no, we don't charge
Really?
anything. I feel like I should have put that in a little bit earlier. Yeah.
I
So
thought maybe just the first bit you don't charge, but the rest of it you would then charge.
no, no, no. So we get funded by the international schools. So we support their student recruitment. So it usually comes out of their marketing budget because often we're working with families who aren't actually here in the UAE already. So
Yeah.
we work with families who are outside of the UAE and we bring them in. And so we support their student recruitment. We bring them families. They say thank you to us. And that's how we get our revenue. So it means for you guys that you're getting support throughout your whole school search process that is non-biased, but it also means that you're working with someone who works really closely with the teams in the school. So we always recommend don't click apply now on the website. We send you our links that are associated with us. So that flags to the school that you're working with us. and it gives me and our team visibility of your application from the inside. So we would never ring a central team, for example, who might be based outside the country, and that would be what happened if you applied on the website. We only work with the admissions director and the manager who's in the school. If you went through my WhatsApp chat, you would see more admissions managers than any of my friends or family, because that's how much we are in contact with each other. But it really works for you guys, because I can ring them or I can WhatsApp them. Once you've filled in that application, I can call them and say, hey, look out for the Samson application, it's coming in now. And then I can start advocating for your child. Yeah,
That's amazing.
We are like a dog with a bone, so we'll make sure that.
So if a school says, for example, if they say that they're full, for example, is that helpful if I've got you on board?
Definitely, yeah. Because whilst they can't promise, and we don't, I would never want to over deliver and under promise. And some schools are at max capacity and they have nowhere to build because they've been open for 20 years and they've filled out completely. Whereas some other schools they're in a situation where they're still in a growth phase. So if an application gets to a certain number, they can take that to their board and say, look, we've got 15 on the waiting list in year 7. Let's recruit more teachers and open up a new class. So it's not always it's not a waiting list. It's a very dynamic situation, the waiting list, and they will look after our families. It's that, you know, they know we're going to bring them more families. So if I know they're going to get looked after, then I'll, you know, it works for everyone involved.
Brilliant. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. I love everything you're doing. So that's brilliant.
Good. No, I love my job. I really like helping families. I would just wish someone did it with me. It's like I've learned and learned from my own experience. So
absolutely.
So, yeah. Where are you in the UK, Lucy?
We're in Hertfordshire, so outside London.
Okay. Yeah, have you got a younger one as well?
I've got 2 older ones who I'm looking into university for at the moment. So it's all a bit of a minefield right now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And university in the UK?
I'm looking at Heriot-Watt.
Oh yeah? They've got a campus in Dubai.
So they've got a campus in Dubai, they've got a campus in England, but they've also got an online course. So I'm trying to get them onto the online course and then transfer them once we get there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we don't support, I would love to help, but it's a whole different, you'll know, it's like a whole different job. Yeah.
But it seems easier in Dubai than it is in the UK. I don't think there's like UCAS forms and stuff. I think it's easier.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, and it's really exciting. There's lots of the University of Birmingham have opened up a campus here.
Middlesex is there.
Middlesex, yeah. So it's an exciting time, and it's not as though they bring their lecturers over on secondment, so it doesn't matter whether you get your degree in Dubai, University of Birmingham, or University of Birmingham in Birmingham. It's still from the same place, you know. So it's not as though
it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a really
But what I'm finding is job-wise, they have to have a degree. Like, you'll know that. Like, my daughter wants to be a teacher, but unless she's got a degree, she can't be a teacher.
Yeah, but she could do all of that over here, and then you can do your postgraduate, your PGCE here as well.
Yeah, but she wouldn't be able to start for another year. So this way she can start her degree sooner.
Yes, okay, I see what you mean.
I just don't know what the right thing is, but yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. Do you know what? That's what I think they do really well actually in schools over here, is they have got incredible they've got counselors as in well-being counselors, but they also have academic counselors who work so closely with the students from year 8 to year 9, helping them to work out what their pathway is and what they want to do at university and guiding them every step of the way. So by the time your son is in this position, your youngest one, hopefully you can just be hands off because the teams
I hope so.
Yeah, they are. They're really, really amazing. So yeah, that was one of the biggest differences I found here actually in the UAE to home, because they just haven't got they haven't got the human resources to offer that at home.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Book on, Lucy.
Thank you. 100%. So you'll send the email link?
Yes, so we'll send the recording of this, and then we'll also put the booking link in as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No worries. I look forward to chatting to you soon. Okay, another one's come in on the Q&A. Did you find that UK high school age children are better to transfer to the UAE with British curriculum as they've progressed so far with that curriculum? Or do you think there's still options for international baccalaureate? Yeah, no, definitely. You can make that transition truly at probably up to, I'm not going to say at any point. There are points of a child's educational journey where it definitely becomes trickier to move. So, for example, if you were coming over with a child who is already has started their GCSEs, British international schools over here in the UAE will not accept new students after October in year 10. Now, even if they're doing GCSEs, even if it's the same exam boards, even, they don't like to accept them. So there are some sticky points. It's not all kind of rainbows and sunshine over here. And we will talk you through this when we do the education consultation with you. That said, if you did need to come over for whatever reason, say when your child is joining year 11, then we can talk you through what those options might be. The other point is obviously in the middle of A levels as well, and in the middle of IBDP, that can get quite complex. But before that, for high school age children, going back to the question, if they're in year 7, year 8, or year 9, it's a really easy transition over to British curriculum schools or into international baccalaureate schools. And it can work either way, actually. They do very well in both. That's what the consultation is really important for, is to work out how well are they doing at the moment. Are they enjoying it? Are they experiencing success? Or are they really, is that British curriculum maybe kind of squashing them a little bit, actually? And maybe they want to do something a bit more skills, with a bit more of a skills focus, in which case the IB would be brilliant. But yes, it's definitely an option all the way up until the beginning of year 10, and then things get a little bit stickier, shall we say, because of obviously those examination years have already started, and so it's much harder to come in a bit later. Okay, I hope that's answered that one. I'm not sure who that was from. Let me see if there's any other questions. So there's no questions to open here. I'm just going to go through and make sure no one's got their hand up. Okay, no, I don't think so. Okay, guys, right. I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully we have answered some of your questions, but I've no doubt there will be more. And yeah, as I say, in the consultation, we can make sure that that is much more your child specific and your family specific to your circumstances. So hopefully I will see you all very soon on a consultation, and I'll get that recording over to you tomorrow, along with the booking link to book into my calendar. Okay. All right, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Have a lovely evening ahead, and I will
Thank
speak
you
to
so
you.
much.
All right, you're so welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take
Thank you.
care.
Thank you, Lucy.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.